In the next couple of videos, we are going to talk about the real In the next couple of videos, we are going to talk about the core concepts of Laravel framework, how it's going to work, what are the things you need to be care about this Laravel framework. Why these things? Because you can simply see here it's written. When you're using any tool in a real time, you feel more confident if you understand how that tool works. And this is the main point, and I'm going to explain you how actually Laravel works from the core. But the most important point is how this Laravel starts the application. If you are coming from core PHP world and if you have no knowledge of Laravel, then you probably know that every PHP project starts with index.php file. But where we have index.php, we can find that inside our root directory. And that index.php is inside this public folder. And yes, you can see we have this index.php. So let's understand what happens, because again, this is a PHP simply. Basically, this framework is PHP framework. So it needs index.php, and that index.php is doing very little amount of work. But in this little amount, it's doing much thing to start the application or to start the framework. So first we are defining Laravel start. It's just a timestamp, or we can say time duration. So let me introduce you with Tinker, whatever you want to call it. So it's like PHP artisan Tinker. So what this is? So this is just like your Laravel framework in command line or in your terminal. So I will copy this and I will paste it here, hit enter, and you can see we have this. And every time we have same timestamp, because that timestamp when we have started the Tinker. So if I restart the Tinker, rerun that, yeah, we have a new timestamp. Okay, next it's saying auto loading. If you are not familiar with auto loading, it's just loading of all the packages and namespaces kind of things. Then yeah, this is most important point, which is turning on the lights. So turning on the lights means we are going to require this bootstrap file. So now where is this bootstrap file? As we can see, we need to go up a directory. Then in the bootstrap directory, yeah, we have this bootstrap directory. Then we have app.php. This is the file we require. So before moving forward in this index.php, let's understand what this app.php is doing. So here we will go on this app.php, and it says now create the application. So I think the name suggests app, which is creating the application. How it's creating the application? It's creating the application by newing up this class, which is application class. So let's just open this application class, and this application class is huge. And you can see it actually create your application, your Laravel framework. This application class extends container, which is actually the most important concept to be understand in Laravel. And this container we will talk about in the next episode in depth, but just think about just as a class which is extended here. So what this application class have? This has the latest version of which framework you have, so 5.8.14. then base path, then some of the things are defined here, and most important point is these three things: service provider, loaded provider, and deferred services. So service provider, as you can suggest from the name, is going to provide the services to your application. And again, we will talk about service providers later, but think about this, that where we have defined all the classes which need to be started with the application. So here we have, then we have storage path, environment.env, namespace, and we can see here whenever we are typing new of this application, we need to pass the root directory or root path actually. So here again on the constructor we are getting the base path, and then we are doing three things. We are binding something, And what do you mean by binding? As the name suggests, bind, it connect various pieces of things into Laravel framework or in the container. So again, think about container as the application or the framework for now. So base binding. So let's just click on this base binding. So here in this base binding, we are setting up the instances, and we are saying that, okay, whenever I am talking about app, give me this instance, that means the class. So next is these kind of things, and then it says file system, and then base path and cache package path. This is something important. So get cache package path. So whatever package you install on your Laravel application will cache inside this bootstrap cache packages. So all the information of packages you have is here. So back to the constructor, and you can see next is base service provider. As I told you, it register base service providers, and these three is important, extremely important to actually able to run the application or the Laravel framework. Okay, and then we are saying register core container alias. Now again, term container is coming. So core container alias is alias for some of the important classes. So whenever we are saying app, we are having the instance of this class, that means the application class. And whenever we are saying request, we are having this class. So these are global helpers which we have, or we can say alias. So again, on the Tinker, if I say request, you can see we are having eliminate HTTP request, which is this one. Similarly, if I say auth and hit enter, we get auth manager, eliminate auth manager, which is here at the top, eliminate auth manager. So these three steps are extremely important, which we have achieved by newing up this application class, and this is the main functionality of application class. So whenever we get the application class, we are doing this singleton things, three singleton things. One is for web, second is for CLI, that means again I told you this Tinker is actually your framework on command line. So whenever we have this, actually these kernel files are responsible for that. Similarly, when you are having web part, these kernel files are responsible for that. So let's see what this is. We are saying app and then singleton. What this singleton means? For now, just imagine singleton means I'm saying to your application that, hey application, whenever I'm talking about this class, give me this class. We are saying, okay, bind important interfaces. So I'm binding this interface with this class. So whenever I'm talking about this interface, I will get this class. So where this class is available. So if I now go to this app HTTP, we have this kernel. So it says app HTTP kernel. And similarly, when we are on CLI command line interface, we need to go to app console and kernel. So let's talk about the app HTTP kernel. You can see this HTTP kernel is extending HTTP kernel, which is this one, eliminate foundation HTTP kernel. And here we are implementing this class, eliminate contract HTTP kernel. But wait, we know this class. This is the same one we have here. Yeah, eliminate contract HTTP and app HTTP kernel, and that's the same. So let's understand this in more detail. So here we have contract file, and we are saying to the application that, okay, swap this with app HTTP kernel. Okay, so we are saying whenever I'm talking about this, give me this. But this app HTTP kernel is extending eliminate foundation HTTP kernel, which is the actual file which implements this contract or this interface. So what I'm saying, whenever I'm talking about this interface, give me the content of this file plus this file. That means we are getting the content from this class, because this class is extending this HTTP kernel. So we are getting all these things. So this is very important because we are giving the ability to the user or the developer to do something on our app HTTP kernel. So that's why if you are following me from first episode, we know middlewares are defined in this kernel file. So we can define kernel file, and because of this kind of binding, we are moving from this contract via this kernel file to real kernel file of the Laravel. So this is, I think, is a complex thing, but I'm sure if you are getting this, you will going to enjoy Laravel. So we are having this, and this, and then we are returning. So in index.php, the most important part is requiring this app.php file. So the most important part of app.php is the binding important interfaces. And next, on the index.php, when we have the app with all the bindings, then we are saying, okay, give me that kernel file. You can see it says give me that kernel file. App make means give me that kernel file. And here we saw that whenever we are saying app singleton, we are defining something and then we are getting something. So we get the kernel, and on that kernel we are handling the request. Then we are sending the request, and at last we are having the terminate method. And again, if you are following me from middleware section, you know this kernel terminate file will terminate all the middleware which implement terminate method. So let me show you these things. So again, I will go to kernel and real kernel, HTTP kernel, and search for terminate. So yes, we can see we have a terminate method, and it says call the terminate method on any terminable middleware, which means if the middleware has terminate method, then call that. And yes, terminate middleware, and yeah, we are checking that if we have the terminate method here, then only we are going to call that terminate. And this is how your Laravel frameworks boots up, or we can say start up, or finally you can say that it turn on the light on your Laravel framework. So quickly, let's repeat every step, because this is very important thing to learn, and if you miss anything, you're not going to understand the next part, which is container. So we go to the public on index.php, because every PHP application start with index.php. Then we are saying, okay, require auto loading, that's good, but require app.php. So we will go to the app.php. Inside this app.php, we are saying, okay, give me the application, that means the real application. And yes, this file is instantiated by passing the base path. Then when we get the application, then we are binding three important things: the web kernel, the CLI kernel, and the exception handling. So after binding everything, after newing up the application, what we are doing, we are saying, okay, use that app, and from that app give me the kernel. And here we know whenever we are calling kernel, we get the kernel HTTP file from our app kernel, app HTTP kernel. And then we are saying, okay, when we get the kernel, say to the kernel that, hey kernel, handle every request. When you have the response from the request, send that response to the user via web or CLI, whatever it is. Then call the terminate method on every middleware. So this is the simplest way you can understand that how your application or Laravel frameworks lights up or boots up. That's why it is bootstrap. So we will meet in the next episode. Till then, goodbye.